Right. All right, folks, we'll bring the meeting to order. Our first sort of meeting as a group in Chambers. So welcome everyone here this morning. Look, I will say a few words in a few moments, but firstly, just welcome to all those online who are beaming in for this, looking at our first sort of meeting in Chamber today. And I'd just like to start with an opening karakia and invite Nita Simmons to do that for us, please. And I think the karakia is also going up online, so people can see that.
Tēnā tātou, e te whare, e te koromatua, ngā kaikaunihira tātou e pai nei me tohi atu ki te wāhi ngaro, i roto i te karakia. Let us pray. Tākina te māramatanga kia whiti ki runga i a tātou, tākina te aroha kia tau ki wainga nui i a tātou, kia tau te rangi mārie me te ngākau pono hei arataki i a tātou. Ko pirongia, ko maunga tautari, ko kakepuku ngā maunga e tū nei tā wharautia, ko Waikato, ko Waipa, ngā awa e rere nei ki te ora, tihei mauri ora.
Kia ora, Nita. Thank you for that. Just before we start, I'd just like to firstly acknowledge the passing of, on the 15th of October, of our former Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Jim Bolger, and acknowledge his passing. Jim had many links with the Waikato, including being an ex-chancellor of the Waikato University and a friend of the Kingitanga. He signed the first modern treaty of Waitangi settlements with Waikato Tainui back in 1995 at Tūranga Waiwai. So I think we just stand and observe a minute's silence for a former Prime Minister. Thank you. Right, I'll just start with some opening comments released over the last week or so. Just been to I don't know if they call it a conference, but it was a couple of days in Wellington, or a day and a half in Wellington, and there was many speakers there. And I guess we're in for a pretty busy time, and it's becoming increasingly evident. So there's three pieces of government legislation or reform planned to come our way, and they'll start coming our way before Christmas. So we've got RMA changes through the Planning Bill and the Natural Environments Bill. We've got the Local Government Act Bill with a clear indication that more is going to be loaded on the councils. And we've also got the Civil Defence Emergency Management Bill. Within this, there's almost an inevitability of rates capping in some form, and that'll be out for some consultation. But we need to prepare ourselves with, a positive mindset as we head into what is clearly going to be some of the biggest reforms affecting local government over our triennium. At the start of this week, we all took part in 2 days of our initial induction program. So first, I'd like to thank the staff through Steph for putting that together for us. It was absolutely 10 out of 10. And I think we all came away positive from that experience. The focus was heavily on culture setting, expectations on each other, and defining what we want to achieve as a group of elected members over the coming 3 years. We talked about legacy, not in terms of buildings, but in terms of what we want to leave behind as a group. And we want to set high expectations that we're placed on ourselves based on some key pillars of trust, respect, financial responsibility, and taking a strategic approach to our decision making. There was a lot more to it, but that's just a little synopsis. So look, I'm excited and feel we have a very positive start to our new team. Respect came through as a cornerstone value that everyone has agreed on, and today is the real beginning as we start on that journey. So we will aim to get everything right, but we will not get everything right. With the community, we will own the successes, and as a mayor and as a group of elected members, we will own our mistakes. We want to work with our community, be in our communities, and make the best decisions for our communities. We have set a value of playing the problem and not the player, and we expect the community to do the same. We will do our very best We are aiming high, and we will engage and we will listen. So on behalf of the 2025 group of elected members, we are positive about moving Waipa forward together across all areas of our community. So let's let the mahi begin. Right, so with that, we will move through our agenda. Just before we start, we have agreed as an elected group that when we move and second things here, it will just be on a first name or apart from Monty, he will be Monty basis. Yeah, so for that, we'll carry on. We've also agreed that we don't need to sort of, when we speak and go through the chair or through the mayor, et cetera, and that'll just create some efficiencies, and also it's not something that needs to be done. So first of all, I would like to call for apologies, of which everyone is here, so we can tick that. So thank you very much. Any late items? None's come my way, and there's none here, so thank you very much. And confirmation of order of business, which we need to move in second. Thank you, Roger. Thank you, Claire. All those in favour? Carried. Right, so now we will head to our first substantive, confirmation of the previous minutes on page 8 to 12.
Maybe it's the same thing. Are we disclosure of members' interests?
Oh, sorry, thank you very much. Own your mistakes. That's me, sorry about that. Confirmation of order of business. Oh, I've done that, sorry. The disclosure of members' interests. We don't have any. All right, that's fine. Thank you very much. Oh, Monty?
I'm assuming the obvious one that our remuneration is an equal interest, and that doesn't count, right?
Correct. Yeah, it's something we legally have to do as a group. Right. All right. So now confirmation of the minutes on pages 8 to 12.
I'm happy to move those as well.
Thank you, Claire. Seconder, thank you, Dale Marie. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you very much. Right, so now we'll go down to the council committee appointments, and I'll invite Joe Greed from Governance, Manager of Governance, to come up and talk about that. And that's on pages 13 through to 27.
Good morning, everyone. So the purpose of the report that you've got on your agenda today is to receive the memorandum from the Mayor, which sets out his committee structure, including his appointments and membership and the purpose of those committees. And then you'll see in your agenda in the council resolution, you'll be making the delegations for those committees, because that's a power that's reserved for council. I think it might help if we just go through the recommendations and talk through what. If we just come up here and we start from the top. Right, so you've receiving the Mayor's memorandum, and then you've got your delegations there for all of the committees. One of the things I'm just going to draw your attention to is when we get to the Prongia Ward Committee, we've just made a slight change there, just as part of discussions with Councillor St Pierre, now that the Prongia Ward is no longer with us. So we just need to make sure that we're defining that area more accurately. So the Prongia Ward Committee, the area that they cover is actually the Prongia and Kakapuku Ward, but it's actually minus the Kakapuku subdivision, because the Kakapuku subdivision is actually covered by the Te Amutu and Kiki Community Board. So we've just made that slight tweak there, so we've got the correct area. So thank you, Councillor St Pierre, for picking that up. And then you'll go on to appoint your subcommittees. So we've got the District Promotion Subcommittee, the road closure subcommittee. And also here we've got the district licensing committee. This is one that goes through a slightly different appointment process. It's up every 5 years, something that Wayne Allen and his team run in terms of appointing people to that process. It's still a committee of council, but an independent one. And then we start to get into the regional council committees. So we've got the Waikato Regional Transport Committee, Civil Defence Emergency Management Group, Future Proof, and there's just a slight change there in your agenda because we just need to put Waikato in front of the RTC Public Transport Subcommittee. This is one that we're looking to also do an appointment to if it's established. And another thing that has come in terms of just making sure, it was a recommendation that came out, I think last triennium, that the person that sits on that regional civil defence committee is also one that has that power and to act on the behalf of the mayor if the mayor is absent to declare a state of emergency. So that was a recommendation that came through last triennium. And then you will go on to appoint your external organisations and other organisations. And we have some of our internal groups listed there. Just noting that we're looking to not re-establish the Community Board 2.0 project control group just at this point, or we just reflect on how that worked last triennium and see what the best vehicle is going forward. And there are, just on this public transport subcommittee, still looking for appointees and alternates for that. There's one appointee and one alternate. And we just had a couple of typos that we were correcting in the recommendation because ComSafe has 2 M's in liaison, needed to be corrected. Did anyone have any questions on that?
Marcus, yeah, thank you, Joe. So your questions first.
My question is about the District Promotions Committee. Have you actually talked to, like have Merv and Kevin been talked to see if they want to be on it this time around? Or is it someone to find someone new?
My understanding is that at this juncture that they were continuing, and then I think as part of the training you can look at what you want to do as a group going forward, because as to whether there needs to be any changes in that.
Okay, I just thought it might be good to ask them.
Yes, we did connect in with the communications team.
Okay, so
Right, so any other questions of Joe? No, all right, Joe, thank you for that. So I guess I'll just read this out too. It's a little bit, it's for the community, I guess. We're sort of changing how we're going to proceed with things when staff are presenting reports to elected members. So what we're going to do is the chair is going to draw out all the questions before staff finish presenting their report, and there's an example of that now. Once all the questions have been satisfied, the staff member will leave the table, as Joe's about to do, into the public gallery. Then the chair will seek a mover and a seconder, which is what I'm about to do, and then we'll have any discussion or debate. And then once that's done, we'll put the motion to the vote. Right, so there was, under the Waikato Regional Transport Committee, there was a couple of gaps there for names. So I'm going to propose myself and Roger, but if someone else has got some thoughts on that. Oh, all right, sure. Yeah, for Joe?
yeah.
All right, well, Joe, sorry, do you want to come back?
Sorry, Joe. It's just under F. It's got me down there twice.
I think that was deliberate from last time in terms of the purpose to make sure that if you, because in your deputy chairperson capacity, you sit as a councillor. So if you were ever not to be a councillor, you could still be a member of the committee. That's why we did it that way. If you're happy with that. Yeah.
All right, so look, under H there, under H3, if established, the Waikato Regional Public Transport Subcommittee, appoint, and I'm going to suggest that's myself because I sit on another transport committee, so there'll be some synergy. And look, Roger's done a lot of work in that space over the past triennium. So, Delmarie?
I'm just wanting to ask about the Waikato Civil Defence Emergency Management Group appointees. With that being a space where there's actually quite a lot of maybe at times engagement with Māori or at particularly Māori places, are both councillors equipped and ready to go if they have to be on marae and places like that? It's just my question. So, kia ora.
Right, so just give me which letter is that in here, just so I can go straight to it. All right. H and I. H1.
Just above your one. Yeah.
All right, this one here, Waikato Civil Defence.
And
Right, so we've got-
supplementary to that, Koromatua, I'll be there to support them if they need that support.
Right, thank you for that, Delmarie. So, hey, the question I guess, is to Marcus and to the alternate is to Les. Picking up on what Delmarie said there, do you guys feel equipped?
Happy to go with what Delmarie wants. Yeah, but I think it's a good idea.
Steph, to make a quick comment here.
I think there's some really important context for that, and thank you for raising it, Delmarie, because through the emergency management reforms that are coming through, and we were briefed on this yesterday at the LGNZ Hui in Wellington, that there are some significant parts of that review and reform, and we'll go through that with you as councillors. But one of those is that engagement with iwi is coming to the fore in the emergency management reform. So iwi will, it is the expectation nationally that iwi will be engaged not just in marae response, but actually at the decision-making table. So there'll be a much greater integration, it is hoped, for iwi across the Waikato into the entire civil defence emergency management structure. And so Delmarie's question is very pertinent. Yeah.
So what actually are your concerns?
My concern is everybody culturally equipped for when you're going on to marae and places like that where iwi are hosting you in these contexts?
How do you want us culturally equipped?
That's probably some of the key questions that we need to ask as ourselves on the table for what's going to happen after 2028. Because I know that iwi members are pretty keen to get on with business, and business as usual for us means that we need to have people culturally equipped when they're coming at us into our spaces. And it would be appreciative if our councillors were up to speed, especially if they're walking up to a gate and they know what they're doing when they're being welcomed into these places. So having that cultural appropriate readiness and preparedness when we're going out and engaging in these spaces with the people we're engaging with.
Right, so Delmarie, so on that, are you suggesting that maybe yourself would be a good person to put into the mix?
Well, I'm also just looking at the last example we've had in the plateau, and the immediate response to support fins down there are tū marae. So I do have to ask our councillors around, are they culturally equipped to be able to go into these spaces well? Because we've made a decision that our skill sets and everything like that for us to start well, we just have to be, as these are communities that I represent, I have to look after them in the whole scheme of things, so.
So, sorry, Mike, is it, so having a council officer as support, is that a possibility?
I think it goes without saying that there'll be councillor officer support for all of these roles. Shane, absolutely. I guess Dale Marie is asking a specific question because of the structure of the civil defence emergency management, the entire regional structure, that there's the mayor's group, there's the joint management committee, and then there's the KEG, the chief executives group, and then consequently, and the governance group set the strategy, but are very involved when an emergency, and both in response and recovery phase. And so they need to be able to lead that out from a strategic perspective. And what Dale Marie is, I guess, indicating is that they'll need to be able to move in both worlds if that's the case. But there's not, without a doubt, we'll be there to support. And this may also raise the broader question of the work that we'll be doing in this training to make sure that all councillors are comfortable to move within Te Ao Māori, and we are lifting our own capacity and capability and confidence within council to work with our iwi partners.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things we have to walk along in the journey, and you've obviously got plans in place that must become equipped, and with NEDA here as well. And so I think it's one of those things, wait and see. Or
I just think it's one of respect.
Yeah, look, thanks for that. Look, I guess it's respect and understanding though. Yeah, respect is awesome, but the understanding can only, I guess, come through experience. Claire.
I think that a lot of this discussion's driven by the expected change to legislation, so that legislation hasn't been passed yet.
No, it hasn't. But these topics are current. They're current, and they're not necessarily waiting for reform either. Claire, I was just going to say, well, I guess what's emerging as best practice and needed anyway is going to come through and be reinforced through that reform. But it will be the expectation starting this triennium that there will be people at the table with the requisite capacity and capability.
Yeah, and also it's not just the district council, it's a regional thing, and it's the joint management committee all that year. So it'd be great to have a coordinated approach. Yeah, thanks.
Dale Marie.
Supplementary, I suppose, and taking on that we are a new team and what we committed to doing when we were away for 2 days. If the alternative is asked to come in on any emergency or anything like that, where they are faced with having to go into Te Ao Māori spaces, I would be appreciated if you'd give me a call, Les, and if I am free, I will support you in that space. Tēnā tātou.
Right, all right, thank you for that. Right, now we went from Marcus getting Joe back, so I actually need to move in a seconder to get this through for a start. So I think we went Dale Marie and then Marcus. Right, so now we're into the discussion which we sort of started. So I'm just going to come back to, are we happy with myself and Roger for the Waikato Regional Transport Committee? Right, yes, right, fine. So we've got a couple of names down there. Right, any other discussion points on this? Right, with there being none, all those in favour, so we're going A through L, all those in favour, say aye. Against? Carried. Right, so we get Joe Gree back in the hot seat. So this is the post-election member remuneration. So Joe, I'll let you take us through that for a start, please. Thank you.
Thank you. So the purpose of this report today is to decide the remuneration for the 11 councillors. So the Remuneration Authority actually set a framework for us. So they set the required governance remuneration pool, so the total pot, and then they also set a minimum base councillor amount as well. So they set that at 50,684, and so really it's only within that ambit that you are making your decisions. So if you pass a recommendation here today, what will happen is I will send that off to the Remuneration Authority. It needs to be with them today, and then they will be considering yours and other councils across the country, making sure they're happy with it. If they approve it, then it will go off to the Parliamentary Office to appear in a determination order, which they expect to issue before Christmas. So at that point, then we'll be able to pay at the new rates. So we've got the rates there, the ratios, we do it by basis of ratios, that's included there in your recommendation at D. Also, just in terms, slightly different in terms of the approach this time that's been taken. It recognises the significant workload of the Deputy Mayor and the support that they provide to the Mayor and the fact that that role is district-wide. It looks at, again, as last triennium, highlighted those chairpersons who sit on those committees of the whole. But the difference this time is it's reduced the ratio gap between chairs and deputy chairs to recognise there's more of a split between those roles, so bring those closer together. And in helping in reducing the difference in those ratios, it's actually helped to bring that base rate up for proposed councillor with no additional responsibility. So really looking to this time to really kind of do a flattening of the rates has really been the approach that has been taken this triennium. Does anyone have any questions on that?
Dale Murray.
Sure, Joe, just picking up on the district-wide, was that applied to the Māori ward?
Well, in terms of there is recognised in there's roles and descriptions. We have got, though it has got iwi portfolio against that. We didn't include any particular narrative in the role description. But
the answer is yes. It was recognised.
Yep.
That's what's coming at 1.15. Okay, so well asked.
I didn't get to ask the last time because I got just given. That's why. That's why I was asking. So kia ora.
All right, so thanks for that, Joe. So what we'll do now is I'll ask for someone to move. So A through E. So Pip and Joe. Thank you very much. And now, any discussion around this? One of the things I'd just like to point out, and Joe's alluded to the fact that this has been deliberately put forward to flatten the structure out, and I think there's probably no more pertinent time in the coming 3 years. You sort of heard my kōrero at the start of the avalanche of legislation and quite frankly, the workload that is going to come, which I guess we could have anticipated, but hearing it firsthand from ministers, it is going to be very real. So look, chairing, deputy chairing committees, there's a lot more flattening of that, but the chair's still the chair. But ultimately, it is one part of the massive job that we all have as councillors. And the last comment I'll make is, look, the differentiation last time was about $19,500 between those who had, in theory, no responsibilities to those who had, more responsibilities. And the difference this time is 11,600 at the most. So we really had tried to flatten the structure. So I'll open it for any discussion. Monty.
Yeah, I'd just like to support you in this, Mike. I think I probably led the charge in the last training about trying to achieve this, which we didn't manage to do. So I think this is a much better result. Fully support it.
Thank you. All right. Well, thank you for that. So look, the recommendation there is A through E. So could we now, all those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Did that at the start? Yeah. All right. Excellent. That was probably the easiest in my 6 odd years that we've got through that. So well done, team. Yeah, and I guess it sends a good message to the community too, that we're sort of we're in this waka together. Right. Yep. So I'll invite Joe Greed back. So council and committee meetings and dates for December 2025. We're just going to start just with this year for a start. Over to you, Joe.
So the purpose of this report is just to set your round of meetings for December. So because we haven't had some of those committees for quite some time, we're trying to get the core committees all through in that 3-week period. And then what you'll have on your agenda for council at the end of December is your meeting calendar for 2026. So this is just to get us through December. Does anyone have any questions?
Dale Murray, sorry.
Vocal today, Dale Marie. I just picked up the PM instead of the AM at 9:15 for finance and corporate. I don't think finance want to be here that late.
Oh, that is important detail. Thank you. Roger.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to say that. That was good. Thank you. And I see that this is identified as just December. Will there be further discussion as to the days and frequency of meetings for 2026 as a separate agenda item?
That will be part of, you'll be able to discuss that at December council meeting. Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely. No other questions for Joe? All right, have a mover and a seconder. I think we'll go Dean and Monty. All right, any discussion among ourselves, debate, discussion on this? A through C. All right, so all those in favour, say aye. Against? Carried. All right, thank you. So, all right, so we've got Diana coming up and she will talk to us around the council delegation. So welcome, Diana. She's legal counsel for Waipa District Council.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tēnā koutou. So the purpose of my report is to seek authority to delegate from council to key staff certain council responsibilities and functions. So for our elected members that are new this triennium, from time to time I take reports like this to council where I seek authority to delegate to staff. And that's basically because it's simply impractical for the people around this table to make absolutely every decision that is required of council under its statutory functions and powers. So what we do as a general principle is delegate everything down to the chief executive, apart from key functions and powers, which is then sub-delegated down to key staff. And that just really ensures the efficient and effective operation of council powers. And so from time to time, I take council reports like this, where we seek to just update council delegations and get approval around that. And then our delegations register is updated, where that kind of documents where all our delegations sit. So for today, there is a new piece of legislation called the Local Government Water Services Act. It's a brand new piece of legislation which really sets out a new framework for the delivery of water services within New Zealand. And so what we're looking to do is to be able to delegate all of the functions and powers under that Act of Council down to the Chief Executive, subject to very key exceptions. And these are exceptions relating to decisions that are more appropriately decided at governance level or which are barred by legislation to be able to be delegated. So that's the first part. And that sort of format aligns with what we've done with other pieces of key legislation. And the other delegation we're seeking is to account for brand new roles or expansions of roles and to enable those roles to exercise emergency powers under the Resource Management Act. I'm very happy to take any questions.
Right, thank you for that, Diana. Just a mover and a seconder for that report first. Oh, so questions? Sorry, all right, we'll start. Sorry, Ion.
Yeah, thanks, Diana. I was just wondering, in terms of that delineation of what counts as the accepted roles, is that our own creation? Is it something that has been sort of thought about across councils, or where's that decision or advice come from?
So in terms of which roles are created?
Excuse me, no, in terms of the pieces that are accepted that are not delegated. underneath the LGWSA?
So every council would make its own decisions about what's delegated and what isn't. But in this case, there are some that are barred by legislation to be delegated, so they're accepted. And then there's also ones that are just by their obvious nature are more appropriate to be decided at council level. So it's really, this is a sort of bespoke decision, but I'm sure that's very similar. I'm not sure what other councils have done, but I'm sure a similar model will be taken. Oh, I should actually just say with the recommendation, there's just 2 typos just to be aware of, where it says compliance officers, it should be officers. And it also talks about authority to submit a waste services delivery plan, which it should be waste water services delivery plan.
Right, thank you for that. Dean?
Thank you. Is there a sort of a process or a time frame where the elected members get advised or communicated with when delegations are being used? Do we get kept up with the play?
Just through the chair, I think it would be almost impossible for every, because we're a statutory authority, we have so many of our functions are by their nature statutory, so it would be almost impossible to document everything that we do. In our delegations register, there are key decisions that must be reported back to council when they've been exercised, and that's particularly around certain financial activities. So there are certain delegations which have to be by condition reported back to council when they're exercised.
Yeah, good practical answer. Sorry, Ion?
Sorry, Mike. Just in terms of, will we revisit this as we move forward into Waikato waters, or stay as it is?
It's always open to council to revisit its decisions, so that's always something that could be undertaken, but the way it's been designed is it's not necessary to revisit it, just because we will become a water service provider even after the waters most of them are transferred over.
Thank you.
Right, any other questions for Diana? No, all right. Well, I'll ask for a mover for A through D. Monty, and we'll go Ion, I think. All right, so any discussion on that paper? All right, good questions. All right, so all those in favour? All those against? Moved. Thank you. Right. Oh, Brian Hudson, right. Right, right, we'll invite Brian Hudson up, okay, to talk on the New World Cambridge Christmas Parade and a request for a temporary road closure. Welcome, Brian. Oh, actually, sorry, also welcome Chris from Good News. So welcome. Looking forward to working with you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, the Mayor and councillors. So I'll present this paper, take it as read, and many around the table will be very familiar with the sirens that can occur during meetings with these types of road closures. So the Christmas parades are annual events in both Timaru and Cambridge. So we've got 2 papers here today, one after the other. Under the Local Government Act, we of course advertise the closure, and it's open for the public to lodge objections if they do wish to. And in this case today, there are objections to both of them from single retailers. And there has been work done between the event organisers and those retailers to, as much as possible, address those concerns. But as you see in the paper, it's obviously not possible to completely remove those concerns from retailers. But it is the recommendation of the report that the road closure be approved. So if there's any questions.
Right, thanks for that. Yeah, Roger, questions?
Yes, thank you very much. The first thing I'd like to do is just acknowledge the Lions Club of Cambridge in taking over the coordination of this wonderful community event. So thank you, Cambridge Lions Club, or the Lions Club of Cambridge, sorry. And secondly, the proposed street closure for Cambridge, from what I can see, that seems to be the same road closure that has occurred on previous occasions. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. It's the same every year and has been for numerous years.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Sorry.
Brian, under normal circumstances, would this information go through the community boards first?
No, that it would not go to the community boards first.
But wouldn't that make sense in terms of those individuals having the knowledge to understand what the issues may well be?
Potentially, yes. I can't give you a definitive answer to that, I don't think.
All right, so I think that point noted. So maybe we can just have a look at do any work, whether that's a possibility or whether that would make sense in any way, shape or form, or whether it's actually even possibly would have to come back anyway, I would think. Monty. Sorry.
Sorry to jump the queue, but it was directly on that, which I think is in our permissions. I think there's an assumption here that the community boards are supporting the Christmas parades because they have always happened, but it is a really fair point. And this is a very sort of strictly regulatory function, approving these road closures, only council can do it, I think, from memory. Well, there is a delegation, but if this table does want the feedback from the respective community boards about these things going forward, that would actually be a change to practice. So I don't know if we need that, but if this group wants that, we'd need to note it and do something slightly differently because these things do come up quite a bit, these road closures. They happen for lots of events.
Just before I go to you, Dale-Marie, Evelise, would you like to comment on that question?
So very good question, and it's often related to timing because of the notice provided and the meeting schedules. And so we'll take that on board to actually work through what that could look like and whether it is practical to actually take these through the community boards prior to, but it is really reflective on timing because often we don't have the time to do that process. So, but, and also in terms of reference to Monty's approach, it just the impracticalities and change in process also.
So just in response, thank you for taking the point on board. I think from our side too, we should actually talk to the community board at our next meeting to ask them if that's something they have an interest in having some overview of.
Thanks for that, Shane. All right, any other questions of Brian? Dale-Marie, and then Joe.
I suppose I just want to ask Monty, who's one of the councillors that's been re-elected into a community board space. Have we ever had any of the retailers come to the community board before about issues with road closure? Yeah, and Joe, sorry? Yeah, no, all right, kia ora.
Can I respond to that question?
Go.
Okay, so, I see the role of the community board to have a strong link to the local organisations, including the business chamber. And so the business chamber has received quite a lot of complaints through the retailers, and they're trying to mitigate those. So the community board would have that knowledge if they have those links, and I think that could add value to the whole process.
All right, thanks for that. Right, so any other questions of Brian? So questions, Joe was next, and then Dean, you're after that.
Thanks, Mayor Mike. My question was actually, and the siren reminded me about this question. What happens if there is an emergency during this time with those road being closed? And have you been in touch with those emergency services, especially the fire service, about their routes and availabilities?
Yes, no, good question. So in this report, there's actually a section that talked about the fire siren that went during the Cambridge
I
parade
remember
last
that.
year.
Yes, I remember.
And it did cause a little bit of consternation, but it was resolved on the day without too much trouble. But the event organisers have been talking, and the traffic management coordinators talking with the emergency services to make sure their communications are really clear on the day, so they know exactly what to do to get vehicles through.
Thank you.
Thanks for that, Brian. And I saw on there that there's some direct lines of telephone communication set up, so thank you. Dean, question? Oh, discussion point. Right, any other questions for Brian or the team?
Your Worship, I just wonder, given that both the Te Ameru and the Cambridge reports are virtually identical, whether you would cover them both. No, I'm seeing from the government, well, they definitely have to be passed as separate resolutions, but in terms of
We're going to open it, floor up for discussion per report.
per report, okay.
All right, so yeah, don't leave the room. Right, so we're done the questions. I can always have a mover and a seconder for this recommendation. Thank you, Pip. Thank you, Monty. Right now, any discussion? And maybe Dean, did you have a question?
It is a discussion, and it does relate to both the applications. Having been involved in the organisation of the Te Ameru event a while back, when it actually was part of a subcommittee of the community board, which I chaired. And so Shane is correct. There have been over the years numerous different submissions from retailers about the hours and how it's run. And of course, there's no easy answer apart from having it at night when they're closed or something like that. So, but one thing I noticed in the submissions, and this applies to the Te Amutu one, but the person making the submission or the complaint wanted it to be held on a different day. But of course, I believe that the two organisations try and make sure that the two Waipa Christmas parades are on different days, so that they don't obviously clash with each other, because a lot of the same resources are used. So I guess what I'm just saying is everyone's trying to make it as good as possible for the whole district, and there's never an easy answer, but I think that both those organisations, so as Roger said, the Lions have taken over Cambridge, and Rotary took over Te Amutu when we stopped doing it, and they're doing a great job, and I think we should support them as much as possible.
Thank you, Dean, for that. And look, and there was, if you read through there, there was some suggestions of alternate time. So continuous improvement is about, just because we did it this way last time. So next time, there's some comments in here, one official objection, but it sounds like there's other comments on that, listening to Shane. So that's something for those groups to consider. There's sort of, right, Claire.
Thanks. There've been great points raised about both of these events, but I'll just focus on the Cambridge one at the moment because that's what we're discussing. Yeah, I do support involving the community board more early on. Look, it's totally predictable what time of the year a Christmas parade is going to be held. So I actually don't find it much of a watertight excuse to say, oh, we wouldn't have time. I think it could easily be programmed. And for such an incredible community event, I think it wants to be done well and achieve the positive outcomes that were intended. You can see that, I guess, over time, things have changed the way we have the opening hours for trading, for shopping and things. So I think it's important to make sure the event delivers, the benefits that were originally intended. And that, I think, includes staggering the different closing times for the various streets, which is raised by the particular retailer for Cambridge. Yeah, so I'm really hoping that there will be closer conversations held to make sure that, some kind of, I suppose, middle ground can be found. I hear what Dean's saying. It's really hard to keep everyone happy, but I certainly support involving the community board more, because I think they will have those connections, to make sure it's, some improvements are made. Thanks.
Thanks for that, Claire. And I guess some of that starts with the timing of the application, doesn't it? All right.
Just regarding rural communities, Quite often they have road closures and hill climbs and bike things. What interaction do we have with the rural community before those are closed?
Oh, yeah, this is discussion time, I guess. So it's sort of a separate, I understand the question. So we can go back and we can have a discussion around that, but probably not right now is the time for that. All right. So any further discussion on the Cambridge road closure? All right. So we'll vote on that motion. So all those in favour say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you for that. All right. We'll shift to page, I think it's 56. All right. So Brian, you're back. So similar thing, but obviously for Te Awamutu, a request for a temporary road closure.
So thank you, Mayor. Again, I'll take the report as read. The discussion is very similar to the Cambridge one, with one retailer making an objection, but I see that there has been work between the Chamber of Commerce and that retailer to provide, I guess, mitigating measures, which I think are very valuable in this situation. So I don't have anything further to add, unless there's any particular questions about the Te Awamutu event.
All right. So look, I'll open it. Oh, sorry, questions now. Shane.
Yeah, I just want to make a point to everyone that they need to recognise that if the event is on a Saturday, the retailers lose money. You know, that's just a fact, because the road's closed, no one wants to go into town. And so their concerns are real and need to be noted. But, you know, they're also community minded and they understand the importance of the event. So, you know, they try to be positive about it and try to make it happen.
Thanks for that, Shane. Yeah, that's been noted. And look, I'm sure that will be taken back to both sides of the district. Any further questions for Brian around that? No. All right. So we have a mover and a seconder for that, please. Monty, Ion. Thank you. All right. Thanks for that, Brian. Any discussion, general discussion? Right. All those in favour? Say aye. Against? Carried. Right. Thank you very much. Thanks for your time there, Brian, also. Right. So now we're on page 64 and it's a resolution to exclude the public. So let's just move to that. All right. So, yeah, we just need to move that. So Dale Marie and Claire, all those in favour? Against?